Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to this week's Precious Metals Review with Mr. Andy SCHECTMAN. He's the president and CEO of MilesFranklin.com. Mr. SCHECTMAN, Andy, welcome back to the show.
JC, the highlight of my week is our brief time together. I always enjoy it. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, thank you. And judging by your skin color, you're taking a lot of time in the sun there, Andy. What's going on?
You know, honestly, it's the craziest thing, JC. I believe I had vitamin D deficiency living in Minneapolis to the point where I could never get warm in the winter, and then colds never bothered me. So it's really quite spectacular to get up. You know, I got a bunch of friends I've made here already. We play golf in the morning every morning at about 6:45, 7 in the morning, and it's dark almost when we tee off. I'm back home by 10 a.m. I get a couple hours of sunshine. It's fantastic. I've never felt better.
It was -8 this morning here, so I'm not playing golf anytime soon until next year.
Yeah, it's I now understand what people see. You know, when I got here in May, it was as hot as the surface of the sun, and everyone always said summers in Florida, they're hot. But I'll tell you one thing, 75 degrees and sunny, you can't beat it right about now. And I don't know what that translated into Celsius, but let me put it this way, it's perfect.
Yeah. You're making me jealous, Andy. All right, let's get into some of the news items. I brought this one up. Let me bring it up on the screen for you guys. This was China a couple of days ago, creating quite a bit of a panic here, asking the residents to stock up and hoard food before winter. And I was like, what do they know that we don't know? A lot of people took this seriously. You could see like all the havoc out there. I put this poster up like, yeah, you're going to need a bigger freezer, man, if you're going to compete with China here and try to get your goods. But it's indicative of everything that's going on right now. We'll get into the tightness of supply in silver here in a second. But what are your thoughts about this whole China thing here, and why this? Why now all of a sudden?
You know, I mean, I think the whole system is really very fluid and in flux. I think the supply chain problem doesn't just affect North America, it affects Asia as well. And you have a lot more money out there chasing a lot less stuff. You have supply chain problems, you have employment problems, you see help wanted signs all over the place. There's distortions everywhere. And you know, I don't think it's a bad idea to be prepared to begin with. I think most of us are very ill prepared for any type of event. And as is the case, JC, with all of these events, they seem to always happen on a Sunday night, Monday morning, you wake up to a new reality. Yeah. And we're a just-in-time economy and a just-in-time world, and that isn't a good idea all the time. You know, a lot of people who prepare and they're cast in a negative light as hoarder or as preppers and as doom and gloom, and they're nuts. But you know what? The shit does hit the fan once in a while, and when it does, and it happens very quickly, there's nothing wrong with being prepared. You know, I tell people when they laugh and they see the food we have, I say, look, if after 6 months or whatever we don't use it, we'll either eat it or donate it to a food shelf. But being prepared it is a good idea. And I think when you see the government of China come out and say that to its people, yeah, you should look at it a little. Whoa, do they know something we don't? Or is it just the stark reality that these are the times that we live in, and a little preparation probably goes a long way. And we should all take that to heart, have a little bit extra food and water and small bills at home, cash, 5s, 10s, 20s, not the big bills. They're too hard to cash as is. Yeah. Having some silver and some gold and medical supplies and flashlights and batteries and all those things that, you know, people would laugh at if they knew you were actually doing that. But in the end, you take great comfort in knowing that, you know, you're there to protect yourself and your family above whatever other people say, first and foremost.
Yeah. Well, let's continue on this China theme. Again, there's something weird happening just under the hood here in China. David Morgan posted this a couple of days ago, October 30th. Let me bring this one up, and then we'll go back to what Cliff was saying about this as well. So Dave was saying here, hey, it's looking like they're only taking sell orders here, and they're preventing people from going long, basically. So let me just read this quickly. Today, precious metals trading customers receive a message from the Bank of China. It said since October 31st, the bank sets a limit to the position of precious metals accounts. Customers cannot buy beyond the position limit, but can sell existing positions only. What the hell? This happened before. Does this sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it sounds just like what happened to the Hunt brothers in 1980 when they realized, very similar to the position we see the COMEX in right now, that there are far more contracts issued than there were bars behind it. And what stopped the price rise and killed it, actually, and almost put the Hunts in jail, was the fact that they made a rule very similar to that, that you, over a certain limit of long, you are now illegal. You can only go at, like, I don't know, 1 million contracts long, but unlimited short, you can sell whatever you want. They're obviously afraid that maybe the Evergrande problem spirals out of control, affects the economy, affects the currency, and they're trying to get people, look, they've already said it's illegal to go into crypto, and now they're saying they're trying to mitigate the rush into precious metals. Is this foreshadowing? Is this why they're telling people to prepare? At the same time, they're limiting what you can get into gold. At the same time, they're making it difficult to buy cryptocurrencies. Do they see a panic coming? Are they throwing out breadcrumbs? And I guess, you can use Occam's razor here and try to decide what is the most logical answer to that. But it certainly seems like they're concerned about something that's coming down the pike, and it would certainly seem as though it's related to a currency problem, to a deleveraging problem, whatever it may be. If you're closing the exits, that being cryptocurrencies and precious metals, if you're telling people to stock up on food, and you have a major, what could be systemic problem with Evergrande as it spreads across the globe, everything's so intertwined. I don't know. It seems to me that's what they're guarding against. That's just using my intuition as a guideline.
Right. But I mean, you don't need a crystal ball, and we could talk about some psychics here who are looking at this and some predictive linguistic models. But right now, the writing's on the wall, so to speak. You really just need to connect the dots here, even though the mainstream media doesn't want to do it for you. But the reason I bring that up, let me go back to the tweet here. Cliff had mentioned this maybe a month ago now, maybe a month and a half ago. This was coming up in his data, where he thought that perhaps China would be the first to revalue gold here in an attempt to get out from underneath this bond debacle here with Evergrande. And so when David pointed this one out, Cliff said, aha, that's the prelude I was looking for here in that temporal marker space that he was looking at. So that's, again, So you just put it beautifully here. It all connects. And then also, there's also the Three Gorges Dam. We've been expecting some issues there as well. Could you imagine if that goes, their capacity to produce after that? Like I think they're in a world of hurt here, and they're trying to pretend and hold it all up with Scotch tape and baling wire. But the worst thing is here, we're all attached to that same cord. So when China starts having issues, this is going to tumble down the line. Explain that for the audience here who think, oh, that's just China. Whatever happens there, it's not really a matter to us. But in precious metals per se here, what would happen if China decided to revalue gold over there? How quickly do we see a contagion here, or maybe arbitrage opportunities here that really cause havoc in our system?
Well, I mean, look, in terms of revaluing gold, it wouldn't take much effort for them to just redirect their efforts into acquiring gold. Look, they have the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which has delivered more gold than the COMEX market by a factor of 90 over the last couple of years. And it's a very robust market, more cash and carry, where the price is derived not by futures, but by the actual fundamentals. So in other words, the reason they haven't complained to the West manipulating the price of gold forever is because they've been accumulating it. But look, if they were just to pour a ton of money towards physical gold very quickly, I think the fundamentals would take care of themselves. If it weren't for the 4 to 8 large traders, mostly commercial banks, on COMEX suppressing the price would be multiples higher, just like every other commodity. And if the Chinese really put effort on it, which, take all your treasuries, sell them, and put it all into the gold market, it would pop. It would also drive a couple banks to bankruptcy, and the systemic nature of all of these short positions unwinding would springshot the price to the levels that guys at Jim Records talks about, $15,000 an ounce, or whatever that number may be. And then you take Cliff's number, and you take 15,000 and divide it by 7. I don't know what that is. What would that be? $1,200 or whatever. I mean, there's the possibility of silver, because that's the geologic footprint right now between gold and silver. Could it go higher than anyone thinks possible? Hell yeah. When you look at Aleister MacLeod is, I think, one of the brightest minds in this space. He says they have that they have 38,000 tons of gold, the Chinese do. And one of the things that's unusual about that statement is that this is a country that is very gold friendly, that promotes gold ownership to their citizenry. And Aleister says that of the 38,000, 18,000 tons are in the hands of the people, 20 in the hands of the government. Well, we supposedly have 8,500 or whatever the number is metric tons when we're supposedly the largest gold holders in the world at Fort Knox, which hasn't been audited in 70 years. But the point of it is that if he's right, they have 5 times what we do. It would be in their best interest too. And I've been saying this forever, that I think that they will do that at some point. Their new digital yuan, which is being rolled out on the Belt Initiative, connecting 75% of human population between Asia and Africa, would be the perfect place to roll out gold backing to a currency issued on a distributed ledger with the veracity of the gold denoted on that ledger. Even if it's only 10% backed. In other words, each yuan has 10 or 20% backing to give them some monetary flexibility. Just that tether of 10 or 20% with the veracity of the gold, audited by a third party and held in a Swiss vault or wherever it is and denoted on the ledger, immediately catapults the Chinese to the top of the class. And I think it would be in their best interest to do it, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, I think the BRICS nations will be the ones that lead that charge, if I had to guess, to a gold backing. But look, why else was gold revalued tier 1, JC? Why else would the central banks have been wickedly accumulating it and repatriating it from the Bank of England and the New York Fed over the last 4 years? This is what we've been talking about. You can see in a game of chess, the pieces keep moving to a point where it's checkmate pretty soon. And I think that's where we are heading. When you see gold as tier 1, when you see massive acquisition, when you see talk like this happening, I think it's closer to reality than it is to conspiracy. That I do believe.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now, when I had this last interview, let me bring it up here with Cliff High last week, we were talking about this panic to own linguistics that were coming up in the Webbot data, I believe starting in 2016 or 17, and the months were for November and December. And it seemed that everything had been delayed here back a couple of years because the other words around those temporal markers were food shortages, riots, sun disease. So we have all of this now in our temporal space. So this panic to own appears to be very close here, because what he was saying is that, let me bring this one up here too. On Zero Hedge, they were talking about, some analysts were talking about $3,000 gold here in months, not in years. And Cliff, when he saw that, he says, no. If China does this, they're probably going to go at least 5-fold to where it is today. So he's talking more about maybe 10,000 gold is his expectations. Now, what we're seeing, you just mentioned crypto, also the digital yuan. This is also triggering the panic to own. So everybody's trying to de-dollarize, as Rob Kirby said the last time we were on the show when we did the death of the petrodollar system, but no more so here than in gold and silver, and they were trying to hold this back. Let's talk about, I just saw this too myself. For some reason, we all kind of missed this one, but the CFT, of course, the mainstream news wasn't screaming about this 24/7, but the CFTC broke all records by giving $200 million to a whistleblower here that led to these, how do you call it, lawsuits here against some of these banks for spoofing silver. How do you set this up for the audience here who think, that's just, it's the same old JC, nothing to see here, nothing's really changed, there's nothing different this time. When you see this, what makes you think that this time is different, Andy?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy actually that they would give that kind of the way that the whole thing went down. If I were going to be in the "this time it's not different" camp, there's no difference. It's, look, they threw 2 traders under the bus, charged them with RICO. The prosecutorial decision or what had been laid down on JP Morgan was deferred. It was deferred prosecution if they kept their nose clean. The traders are going to jail, but JP Morgan paid $920 million fine, but they made $1 billion on their metals desk that year. And they're still allowed to run the world's largest silver trust. So you have a company that admitted to rigging the market, paid a $920 million fine, but that division of their company made $1 billion. They walk away up net $80 million and are still running the world's largest silver trust. So
not a bad racket there, Andy.
Yeah, well, from the standpoint of this time, it's different. Maybe it's not, but where it is different, to me, where the real difference is in what's happening on COMEX. You know, we've talked about this in a few of our past shows, but in August, when the price fell by $100, you had the same old action going on. You had it pushed down over the 200-day moving average, triggered a bunch of sell orders. Price of gold falls by $100. The commercial banks cover old short positions.
Yeah.
But what is different is the one managed money trader who purchased whale on COMEX, who purchased 38,000 gold contracts for December delivery. And if they are doing what they've been doing the last year and a half, they'll take delivery. That's 3.8 million ounces of gold. They've upped it to 40,000. So there is one trader, who is long 40,000 December future contracts in gold. You would need a minimum margin deposit of over $330 million for that. That's $7+ billion in gold. Who's got that kind of money? Who's challenging the commercial banks? Because when that gold was sold in August to drive the price down over the cliff, that was not real gold. That was a December futures contract that was sold. And someone at the end of the table says, I call.
I'll take it.
You're all in. And I will take those December futures contracts and I'll buy 38,000 of them, 3.8, you know, you're talking so much money that who's got that kind of money, JC? And I just think that that's what's different this time, is that you have a challenger on the managed money side. The hedge funds are not the ones doing this. It's the sovereign wealth funds and the family offices that are standing up to the manipulation. I think the only way to beat the manipulation, JC, is to push it. The only way to manipulate a market is to push it in the direction it's going. And it's not going that way anymore. You have a whole world that is awakening to what's happening to currencies and the value found and the safety found in precious metals. I think we're getting closer to the end of the game than we've ever been, based upon the massive acquisition by these huge traders who are standing for delivery and challenging the commercial banks who have really run roughshod over the industry for the last 20+ years.
Yeah, well, that's what Bill Holter was saying here, who was on the show the other day, and I asked him too, like, what are you guys and you and Jim Sinclair and the boys there at JS Mindset thinking? Like, you guys have your finger on the pulse. And he's like, we agree with Andy. There's a weird electricity in the air. People are panicking to buy silver. They're calling us and they're saying, I want to get rid of my paper today. Can I wire you the money today? Can you deliver tomorrow? He said, we've seen that, over the years, but not like now. Like, a lot of orders have that same kind of panic. I want to do this now. I'm afraid of keeping all of this money for some reason. They're de-dollarizing quicker than ever. So, of course, it wouldn't be woo-woo if I didn't bring a little bit of woo on my show here. This is Beyond Mystic. But last night, I asked Janine to pull some cards on this interview I had with Bill Holter. And I was asking, well, okay, why is this supply suddenly very tight? We're seeing the Royal Canadian Mint. There might be 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out here on some of the products. In the States, too, Bill was saying that the U.S. Mint was slow on delivery. A lot of dealers are a little bit tight on inventory right now. So I asked Janine, pull some cards. What's going on? And she's like, that's funny. And again, Janine doesn't, like, she goes at this really cold. She doesn't read all this information in this backdrop. She's like, wow, I'm getting a hoarding card. So people are hoarding. Rich people are hoarding physical silver. I'm like, you don't say. So let's talk about the others here in the category. Who are those others right now that might be hoarding all of this physical silver and gold here, maybe front running what's about to come?
Well, when I call them the others, it's important to understand that the Commodity Exchange publishes a report every week. It's called the Commitment of Traders Report. And that Commitment of Traders Report shows the positioning of the largest traders. It's always been the specs, which are the hedge fund speculators, and the commercial banks, and they would battle against one another. The others came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, last year in 2020, we see the COMEX add a new group of reportables to this Commitment of Traders report. They're big enough to be on that report. These are the biggest positions, and They are believed to be sovereign wealth funds and family offices. Most of them trade on the Globex market, which is an avenue into the COMEX, and it's very private, and it's usually reserved for the very uber wealthy. But there are people wealthy enough to post a $330 million margin account to take possession or to buy controlling interest of almost $8 billion worth of gold. And they've been standing for delivery for the past 18 months. Over 300 million ounces of silver, they stood for delivery last year. That's 10 years worth of deliveries in anything I've ever seen before. I was asked to speak at a family office event a few weeks ago in Arizona. Never in a million years would that happen. I'm being contacted by a hedge fund that I'm negotiating with that are talking 8 and 9 figures. These are things that never would have happened before. Mm-hmm. And I guess if you really are honest with yourself and you look at asset classes, you have to be naive to not see what silver offers. And when you look at the fundamentals in it, standpoint of utility, standpoint of monetary demand, again, it's the only asset that has demand on both sides, both monetary and industrial. Usually commodities have one utility, like copper is industrial and gold is monetary, silver is both. So you have utility, you have demand from a monetary side, you have an asset that is depleted in nature, that's trading half of its all-time value, and that the biggest money in the world is gobbling up. It's the buying opportunity of a generation. It truly is. I try to say that and be as candid and sincere as possible. There isn't anything on the planet, in my mind, that offers the value that silver does. And with all of that being said, as I said on your show with Bix not too long ago, I do believe ultimately the place to be is gold. Ultimately. But you are crazy if you don't see the pathway into it through silver being the opportunity of a generation, where you buy silver at a ratio right now of almost 80 to 1, 75, 77 to 1, yet it's coming out of the ground at 7 to 1 at its relation to gold. Mm-hmm. So as it regresses, and it will, towards its natural mean, even if it went to 35 to 1, you take the silver you bought and trade it into gold then and double what you could otherwise buy today. It sounds complex. It's very straightforward. You look at silver as the most undervalued asset on the planet. You look at gold as being tier 1, that the biggest money in the world is calling riskless and accumulating, which will probably be pegged to a new currency. So you buy silver right now at these low levels at its relation to gold. And as it corrects and gets closer to its geologic mean or its relationship to gold, we talk about perhaps switching into gold. And that's something we can help people with. But look, JC, I think the biggest money in the world is realizing right now that de-dollarizing is the name of the game. And I've been saying that over and over and over and over again to the point of redundancy ad nauseum for the past 4 years, that this is what has been happening starting in 2017 with the German Bundesbank bringing back their gold. And every action I've seen since then is exactly what you're saying. They're de-dollarizing quietly and using the manipulated price to run cover for it. If the price were actually a reflection of its demand, it would be so damn high, people would be, oh my God, and they would be running out of equities and running out of the dollar and realizing that the canary in the mine shaft was screaming through a bullhorn. Instead, they have the canary muzzled and tied up underneath a pillowcase, trying to keep it quiet so that no one understands that this de-dollarizing endeavor is not, there's not enough room for everyone to get out at the same time or at all. So you got to muzzle the canary. And that's what all of this is about, is muzzling the canary. And because the biggest money in the world, you can see that they're doing the opposite of what we are being told is conventionally wise. They're doing the opposite.
Right. In our chat with Bill the other day, you were in the live chat and you said, man, Bill's one of the smartest guys I know. And one thing that was interesting, Bill was saying, we're at an inflection point, and this was related in their last weekly call on Saturday here with the JS Mindset membership. And you're saying we're at this inflection point of truth coming out, not just in the financial market, but in everything, right? The healthcare situation, the political situation. We're at this point now where all of the tinfoil hatters are being proven right day by day by day by day. So it's incredible and it's accelerating. And so it was a fascinating conversation, folks. If you haven't seen the video, please go check it out. I think it was 2 days ago we posted that. Quite an interesting interview. Andy, as we go forward here, you and I have been discussing how perhaps you were going to change your business model here to be even more competitive here for the Canadian subscribers. And I hear you have some news for our Canadian folks here.
Yeah, I'm sure the people who have been watching this have been like, yeah, sure, you know, because it's been taking so long. Look, when you're an American company and try to open up a company in Canada, there are a lot of things that you need to take into account. Things like Nexus and which would be taxation, income tax in Canada. We have to make sure all of our I's were dotted and T's were crossed. But it looks like we've been given the green light. Our website's not done yet, merely. However, I was told by my operations that it looks like next week we'll be able to start taking orders. Now I'm going to hedge that bet and call it 2 weeks, because it's always going to take a little bit longer. But I am about 99% sure that within 2 weeks we will have our Canadian division up and running. What makes it not competitive the way that it is right now? Our prices, as they are, would be very competitive. It is converting Canadian dollars into US dollars that will cost 2 to 3%. That is more than we mark the whole transaction up. And so it makes it not competitive. So through a very dear friend who is one of the Royal Canadian Mint primary distributors, we have worked out a relationship to where we will be offering a whole suite of products on top of our Canadian storage at Brinks with Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, but actual delivery throughout all of Canada, which is no different than what we do right now, with the exception of being able to take it in Canadian dollars. And so 2 weeks at the most, maybe even as soon as the next time we talk next Thursday.
Okay, very good. Well, that's exciting for quite a few of our members here. Now, let's talk about the specials for this week. Andy, before I let you go, we've now put back on the main queue here on the Hi-Ho Silver promo form here in celebration of my last interview with Bill and his horse, Principe. We put the Krugerrands up here, the 1 ounce Krugerrands at $3.95 over spot. How is the inventory on these right now for you guys?
They're good. But JC, it's getting really hard to get stuff. I want to tell you a couple quick things. And so those premiums, those specials are both great. The Wall Street 10 ounce silver bar, $315 over. The 2021 Krugerrands I have, I don't know, 40 or 50,000, $395 over. All good. You know, you had mentioned that Bill said, and Bill's one of my best friends and the smartest, one of the actual, it's beyond smart. He's incredibly wise and a good friend, but an incredibly wise guy. I encourage everyone to watch that interview I did. It was fantastic. But like he said, the U.S. Mint is slow delivering. So, you know, the U.S. Mint has been the model of inefficiency. They are on allocation. The UK Mint ran out of silver blanks a couple weeks ago. They're very difficult to get product from. The Perth Mint in Australia has been pretty good, but you know, we're already into 2022 allocations that we won't even have for a couple, 2-3 weeks yet. The Royal Canadian Mint has been anything but quick. As I've been saying on your show for a long time, getting product is really going to become a challenge. It just is, because the secondary market, which used to be a part of this market, is gone. No one sells anything. They don't. And so you're all reliant upon 6 mints to deliver stuff, you know, in a timely fashion. These are government entities that, on top of supply chain problems. So those are great products right there, both of them, and they are in stock and are able to sell rather quickly. But I'll tell you something: getting product moving forward, it's really hard, and it's harder to continue to bring these specials, which I really try hard to bring to you every week, that are going to be the best price in the country, or in North America for that matter, stuff that I would want to own myself. So the Krugerrand is a fantastic coin. It's one of only 6 major mints in the world. There are others. The 6 major mints being US, Canada, Austria, Australia, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. There are a few others, that China and Mexico, that don't amount to much of anything at all. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to own 1 ounce silver coins, the Krugerrand is as nice as any of them. And the 10 ounce bar would be a little bit more of an economical way to do it. I'm thrilled to be able to continue to bring them supplies good. And yeah, I think it's a good way to add silver. Look, I'm a U.S. Mint distributor, one of only 27 authorized resellers in the world. And I have an awful lot of Silver Eagles in stock. And I listened to what Bill said. And there's validity to what Bill said. Perhaps he believes that everyone should own American Eagles and pre-65 silver. Those are the two items that are by far the most inflated right now.
Yeah.
And I have them, but they're expensive. And he will cite reasons why, and you can listen to the interview with JC, why he believes that you should own American-made products. If people want to own them, I have them. If you're looking for a better price on silver without accepting any decrease in quality, then there are alternatives like the Krugerrand or the silver bar. But I'll tell you this, the difference between Krugerrands and American Eagles my entire career has been about 60 or 75 cents. Right now, they're $5.50. So $5.55. So you have to think about that for a moment. And is it because the U.S. Mint is inefficient, or is it because they really are worth it? I'll let you decide for yourself. All I can tell you is that they are more costly.
Well, maybe we can say this to the audience here who haven't seen the episode. Bill was answering that because somebody asked him about silver confiscation. And so he suggested that, of course, if you were accumulating silver in your country's legal tender, it wouldn't be impossible for them to confiscate, but it would be much harder than if, per se, you were holding coins from another country or just straight out bullion. So that was his answer.
That makes sense.
In that context.
And so I would caution people also in this and say that the American Eagle is legal tender. It's not currency. If you really want something where you can probably, and this is why Bill is probably, of all of the people that work with Miles Franklin, Bill sells more pre-1965 silver than all of us combined.
Yeah,
because of that. And if you think about it, it's not really a bad argument. You have dimes and quarters that are currency, not just legal tender. A silver eagle is legal tender. It's not currency.
Right.
Dimes and quarters and half dollars minted prior to 65 are both.
So here's the $64 million question. Do you have any of this junk silver?
I do have them. But here's the answer to that $64 million question. The premium on them is higher than everything we carry, with the exception of silver eagles. So, and it's never been that way. I mean, it's got the name junk silver because the junk meant that it never carried a premium above its melt value, and now it really does. Question is it worth it? What does it offer you? In a nutshell, when I talk to Bill about this all the time, he'll say, look, a 1 ounce silver coin offers you 1 transaction. 14 dimes equal almost exactly 1 ounce. Each dime is 0.0715 of an ounce. Multiplied times 14, you're at an ounce, just over. That's 14 transactions. I can't argue with the logic. I can't argue. That's what I mean. He's a wise guy. So the argument is, if in a confiscation, they wouldn't take U.S. legal tender. Not only that, it's U.S. currency. And, unless you knew better, and most people don't, no one would even know that silver coins prior to 65 have 90% of their weight in silver. Obviously, that information would disseminate to the public eventually, but all I'm simply saying is those don't look any different than the dimes or quarters in your pocket. They just sound a little different when they jingle.
Right. Okay. And is it possible for you also, because somebody else was asking, I think last night, or maybe during the show with Bill, and I didn't ask the question while we were live, but they were asking, can you also source the pre-68 silver here from Canada for our audience? Is that something?
I'll have to talk to my Canadian distributor and ask him about that. Okay. Normally, when we get that in the States, I don't see it very often. I really don't see it. But normally when we get it, it goes fairly quickly because we don't see it that often. But I haven't asked the people up in Canada, which I will. It's normally something the U.S. Audience isn't really looking for. But I can certainly try. I don't even know how much silver per capita is in Canadian pre-65 or 68 rather. So that's one of the first times I've been stumped on a metals question. I don't know how much is in it. I think it's slightly less than the American dimes and quarters. But if it's at all possible to get it, I've asked him about it before, and he said it's hard to get too. But if it's all possible.
Well, when we're ready to take Canadian dollars here with your new service, perhaps it's something that we want to put on the shelf for the audience. I'm sure it will be very popular here, especially for people who are starting, as Bill was saying, start with the smaller denominations before you get into the big bars. And so there might be a lot of Canadians here looking for those dimes and quarters and half dollars here in Canada. So, okay, well, let's go back to that. Somebody was asking also, you and I had talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Were you able to source, or do you have the ability to source those silver tarot cards? I believe
I've tried.
No.
One of the things that's really unique about the market that we're in right now is a lot of the websites will carry some of these coins, like the tarot cards, or you asked me about the white horse. Or honestly, when I tell you supply is next to impossible, it is, and you'll find that stuff like that you won't find anywhere. They're very limited in supply. A lot of the companies that will issue these things, they keep them on their website, even though they don't have any. They had it, they sold out quickly. These are things that are not made in very large quantity, and that's the problem. You know, when we're talking Silver Eagle, you know, they make, I don't know, 40, 50 million ounces or whatever the number is, 30 million silver maple leafs, 30 million silver kangaroos. But when you talk these tarot cards, I would guess that the numbers that have been produced are in the thousands or tens of thousands, certainly not the millions. And so they're really, really hard to come by. While they're very neat, a lot of these esoteric items you can't find. So under normal conditions, I could find anything, but these aren't normal times. There's an old saying, JC, there's no bull market like a metals bull market, because no one sells. Mm-hmm. And so the supply disappears and the price goes up. You see problems with these mints, and this is where I've seen it. The reason I say what I do about supply is there were many times throughout my career where when no one was buying metal, when we would do 15% of the volume we do now, we were doing then for a whole year, and the mints would run out of product. And I've always known that the mints are very inefficient, and we would come to a period of time where you can't get any product. But when the mints run out of product, or the supply chain problems get worse, or the rest of the world says, in Australia, give us all the metal held at the Perth Mint, don't send it out. We all want it here to protect our country. It's over. You can't find it. No one is selling us anything. So the people who have those tarot cards, they're not selling them. And I haven't seen any distributor asking if I want any or that they're available. I've looked too.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, I asked, and if we can find them, we'll source them, and you'll be the first ones to know. In the meantime, of course, if you want to put your hands on these amazing Krugerrands here at the best, I think it's the best price here in North America. I've seen some others at 2-3 over spot higher than what you're asking for here, Andy. So that's great. You guys can check it out at beyondmystic.net/hi-ho.
You know, I see one other comment there that we've talked about. You know, two things I'd like to tell you regarding supply chain, and then I'll let you run.
All right.
One, we had millions of dollars worth of metal that was heading to our vault from Houston, where it came in on the Gulf and on a ship, got on a truck. The Brinks truck had to stop at Brinks, Salt Lake City, on its way to my vault in North Dakota. The Brinks truck made it to Salt Lake City, and the two drivers quit because of the vaccine mandates, and they quit. And the truck sat there for 5 days until two new drivers got in, and put us a week behind the 8 ball on a whole bunch of product. Managing in the supply chain nightmare is really hard. And those 5 days, you can imagine how many people are saying, "Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff?" Well, the drivers quit, and you can hear them in the back of their mind going, "Yeah, right. Well, it's true. They really did." And so that is certainly something to keep in mind, that the supply chain is very, very, very tenuous. And I don't know. I'll keep trying to bring this stuff to you, but I'll tell you, it's not getting any easier, JC. It really, truly is not getting any easier whatsoever. So if anyone is interested in precious metals, obviously fill out that form, and we'll get right back to you as promptly as we humanly possibly can. And while we have these products, we'll make sure your listeners get the very best price in the United States and whatever it is that they're ordering.
Perfect. And guys, we've modified the form a little bit here to streamline and make it a little bit easier and faster for the brokers at Miles Franklin here to get back to you. So when you fill it out, you can feel, yes, I'm interested in the silver. I want to talk about vaulting service here in Canada or in the States. And of course, you can talk about your IRA also. So these are things that we've just added, and you can also inform us of how much you're looking to invest. So we'll give us an idea here how to respond to you, how quickly to respond to you, what the shipping costs are going to be. So it makes it a little bit easier for them, the more information they have to respond to you faster. And as always, if you haven't heard back, usually within 24 hours, send me another note. It's probably because it went to a spam folder either on their side, or they responded to you and it went to your spam folder. And of course, we're trying to capture everybody who wishes to get their hands on some silver here. So if you haven't heard back in 24 hours, please just let me know and we'll fix it for you.
I remember the other thing I was going to say.
Yeah, you said two things and you just said one. Okay, go ahead.
What the hell was I going to say? There was someone in there asked about the bars. So the machine that we bought had been sitting in customs forever. With the supply chain. So we have the same machine that the Pamp Swiss Mint uses for 10-ounce bars. And I do believe it is actually either cleared customs or just about to. It's been sitting in those damn freight containers waiting to get to us. Everything is screwed up.
Is it on the ship off the West Coast somewhere?
It was made in Europe and it's been sitting forever. So that's getting closer too. And so bear with us. I managing these logistics, whether it be getting a machine that we paid for a year ago, or getting coins, or from mints that run out of blanks, or Brinks drivers that quit in Salt Lake City halfway to my vault. It's a full-time job making me gray, man. But I just want you to know that everything is still slowly moving ahead. And I'm so excited to be able to offer the Canadian deal. And I'm hoping that we're able to do that by next Thursday, the week after. I would say pretty much for sure by then.
Well, we'll try to do an update next week, and perhaps by then we'll have good news for you guys. So thank you for that. And of course, yes, Andy, you're hurting cats. So just get more vitamin D and you won't get the gray hair.
That won't be easy. That won't be hard here. That won't be hard at all. Casey, all right. I wish you a great weekend, my friend. You're my favorite, and you take care, brother. I'm always here for you.
All right. I love you, Andy. And folks, stay tuned. Tonight, right after the show, we have Carla from Ascension Orgonite coming to the show here at 5 o'clock Eastern. And tonight, of course, the Quantum Woo with Maria Mahanin and special guest at 8 o'clock Eastern. So one last time, please check out beyondmystic.net/hi-ho silver. And this was the Precious Metals Weekend Review with Andy SCHECTMAN. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. Au revoir.